All right, I want to talk shop about Cleveland Browns. So, obviously, a lot of fantasy implications with Kevin Stefanski coming over into this team. I think it's very important to talk about Kevin Stefanski first as an offensive coordinator before we dive into all the players. So, first off, Stefanski, obviously 2019 Minnesota Vikings offensive coordinator. You know, that team was dead last in dropbacks, a very run-heavy approach, a lot of two tight end sets. Now, something to keep in mind about Kevin Stefanski. He was on the Vikings staff from 2006 to 2019. That's before Adrian Peterson was drafted. This team, Kevin Stefanski was a part of, saw his offensive coordinators he was under were Darrell Bevell, Bill Musgrave, Norv Turner, Pat Shurmur. So a lot of these guys have a similar theme. They all use bell cows. Now, of course, that's easy to say when you have Adrian Peterson. There was a few years in there where Adrian Peterson got hurt, and then Matt Asiata, Jerick McKinnon, also Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon were utilized in a 1-2 running back role on that offense. However, the typical movement was to use Dalvin Cook, Adrian Peterson as their workhorses, multiple 300-carry seasons. Now, pushing Kevin Stefanski now as the head coach, he brings in Alex Van Pelt. Alex Van Pelt, the longtime QB coach of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. This is important because I don't believe that you're going to see a very similar offense that you saw in 2019 with the Minnesota Vikings. And what do I mean by that? They're not going to be dead last in dropbacks. That's just not going to happen again. They're probably going to be closer to the mean. If you guys read my article about the opportunity analysis, that's 623. So that's an additional 100 or so more dropbacks. I think this team's going to be in the high 500s. So the thing is, they're still going to be below average in the sense of team volume. So now when you evaluate the pass catchers, you're going to have Odell, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, David Njoku, and also have now Austin Hooper. Now, when you're evaluating these guys in the draft, you got to remember, this is going to be a below average passing volume team. And where are these targets going to go? So you got 5 guys essentially that are going to take up probably 80 to 90% of the targets. And that's still not a lot of room for anybody to really have big seasons outside of the main guys. Now, why is this important? So I saw the other day Kareem Hunt, for example, is being drafted in the 5th round now. And, this is based on the fact that last year down the stretch he was pretty good. But even last year in half-point PPR, he was just over 10 points a game. That's like top 30, 30-31 range for points per game in half-point PPR amongst the whole season. And that's on the back of over 5 targets a game. So when you're evaluating Kareem Hunt, you have to realize that they didn't have tight ends. So Njoku got hurt. Austin Hooper was not on the roster. They're using Demetrius Harris and also using Ricky Seals-Jones as the tight ends, and they were not getting any targets. They had 21 targets in those remaining 8 games. So you got to factor in that now you're going to have Austin Hooper. You're going to have David Njoku. So where are these extra targets going to come from that are going to keep them afloat but also keep Kareem Hunt at 5 a game? So I think it's a little bit it's a little bit of a risk factor with drafting him in round 5. I also am not a big Nick Chubb guy in round 1. I'd rather have him in the mid to late round 2 because of the fact that Kareem Hunt's on the roster. But at the same time, you got to take into context. There's not going to be enough passing volume to keep Hunt, Njoku, Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, and Odell Beckham all fantasy relevant at their current draft cost. So just keep that in mind because the history does tell us that Kevin Stefanski is not going to be as run-heavy as he was in 2019, but they're not going to be the league leader in passing attempts anyway to support 5 pass catchers, especially Hunt being the RB2. Teams don't build their team around 2 running backs and use them both outside of the very few like the Saints did with Ingram and Kamara a few years back, but those are typically outliers. So I do believe that Kareem Hunt does offer value in fantasy. I think he's going to be a low-end flex play. But in round 5, way too rich for my blood. But those are my thoughts on the Cleveland Browns. Keep in mind, so my draft recommendations are going to be, obviously Nick Chubb in round 2, Kareem Hunt probably late 6, early 7. Austin Hooper probably going to be taking guys like Hayden Hurst, for example, ahead of him. So I won't have a lot of Austin Hooper. David Njoku's off our redraft radar. Odell Beckham in the 3rd round, I'm not going to probably take a lot of him. Might look at him in the 4th, but I'm taking guys like Thielen over Odell in that range. And then Jarvis Landry, obviously always a career undervalued guy. I think you can go ahead and pull the trigger on him in the 6th and 7th rounds. But thanks for following me, guys. We'll talk more about every team throughout the next month or so because I'm just going to data dump on you. So enjoy.